Good evening, and welcome to the Sleep to Law series. Tonight, we journey to the very foundations of one of the most detailed worlds ever created, the cosmology of the Wheel of Time. We will explore the silent creator who began everything, the great cosmic wheel that governs existence, and the intricate pattern it weaves from the lives of all things. If you enjoy this exploration of law and find it relaxing, please consider subscribing to the channel or leaving a comment. It helps the series reach more people who might enjoy it. Before we begin our journey into the law, I have a question for you. In a world with a creator who does not intervene, do you believe that destiny is more or less powerful? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, find a comfortable position. Close your eyes if you wish, and let us begin our story at the only place we can, before the beginning. Chapter 1. The Creator, the Silent Gardener. Before there was time, before there was light or dark, or substance or sound, there was a state of being that words can only fail to describe. It was not a black void, for black is a color, a presence of something. It was not empty space, for space is a dimension, a measurement between points that did not exist. It was a perfect and unending nothing, a stillness that was not the absence of sound, but the absence of the possibility of sound. In this state of pure potential, without dimension or duration, a consciousness existed. This was the Creator, not a being of form or shape, not a man with a white beard on a golden throne, but a thought, a will, an intention that existed outside of the concepts it was about to bring into being. There was no before for this consciousness, and no after, for it was the very thing that would soon define what before and after even meant. It was alone in a way that is impossible to comprehend, for there was nothing else to be alone with. It simply was, and in that state of being, a purpose formed. A desire not for companionship, for such a concept was not yet real, but a desire for being itself to expand. A desire for story, for choice, for life and for consequence. The Creator decided to create. This was not an act of speaking a word into the darkness, for there was no air to carry a voice, and no ears to hear it. It was an act of pure will, a focusing of intention that was so absolute, so powerful, that it brought reality into existence. The first thing that the Creator fashioned was the central pillar of all that was to come, the Wheel of Time. Imagine a loom of infinite scale, a construct not of wood or metal, but of cosmic law and metaphysical design. This was the wheel. It was forged to turn, and in its turning, it would pull the raw threads of existence and weave them into a tapestry of reality. The Creator gave it 7 spokes, and each spoke represented an age. Each age would have its own nature, its own feel, its own triumphs, and its own sorrows. The passing of one spoke to the next would mark the end of an era and the beginning of a new one. When the wheel completed a single full rotation, all 7 ages would have come and gone, leaving behind memories that would slowly fade into legend, and legends that would eventually fade into myth. And then, the age that had long since passed would come again. There were to be no true beginnings or endings to the turning of the Wheel of Time. It was a perfect, self-sustaining cycle. An engine of eternity designed to run forever. But an engine needs fuel, and a loom needs thread. The Creator's next act was to bring forth the energy source for this new reality. This was the one power, the true source. It was conceived as a great, unending river of cosmic force that would flow from the Creator and drive the wheel on its eternal journey. This river, however, was not uniform. The Creator divided it into 2 equal and opposite halves. One half was male, and it was called Sidene. The other half was female, and it was called Sidar. They were different in nature, in feel, in the very way they functioned. Sidene was described by those who could touch it as a rushing, violent torrent, a storm of fire and ice that had to be seized, wrestled with, and dominated. To touch Sidene was to grasp a lightning bolt, to fight against an overwhelming flood and bend it to your will. It was wild, untamable, and infused with a raw, chaotic power. Sidar, on the other hand, was a vast, deep, and steady ocean of power. It could not be seized or forced. To touch Sidar, one had to surrender to it, to open oneself up to its embrace and allow its current to flow through them. It was a power that required cooperation, guidance, and acceptance. The two halves were in constant opposition, constantly pushing and pulling against each other, and it was this eternal struggle, this perfect cosmic balance of opposites, that caused the wheel of time to turn. They were two sides of the same whole, inseparable and essential for the continuation of all existence. With the loom constructed and the power source established, there was one final and crucial element that the Creator needed to address before setting the wheel in motion. For creation to have meaning, for choices to matter, there had to be an alternative. Light is only understood in the presence of shadow. Goodness is only a virtue if evil is a possibility. In the same moment of its own consciousness, the Creator was aware of its perfect opposite. An entity of pure negation, a being whose only desire was to unmake, to destroy, and to return everything to the timeless nothing from which it had come. This was the Shaitan, the Dark One. The Creator was faced with a profound choice: to destroy this antithesis and create a world of perfect safety, harmony, and predictability, or to allow it to exist, and in doing so, allow for the existence of true free will. A world without the option of darkness would be a world without the choice for light. The struggles, the heroism, the love, and the sacrifice that would make the story of creation beautiful would all be meaningless if there were no real stakes, no genuine risk of failure. So the Creator made a choice not of power, but of wisdom. It would not destroy the Dark One. Instead, it would build a prison. It fashioned a seal, a metaphysical barrier of immense strength, and it cast the Dark One outside of the newly forming reality, outside of time itself. The Dark One was to be imprisoned beyond the borders of the pattern that the wheel would weave. He would be able to touch the world, to whisper in the minds of men and women, to offer them power and promise them freedom from consequence. His influence would be the great test, the shadow that would give the light its definition. But he would not be able to break free and unmake creation, not unless the seals of his prison were broken from within. This act established the fundamental conflict of the universe. It was not a war that the Creator intended to fight. It was a struggle that the inhabitants of the world would have to face for themselves, in every generation, in every age. The Creator provided the stage, the tools, and the rules of the game. The playing of it would be left to the threads woven on the loom. Having established the cosmic machinery, the power source, and the fundamental conflict, the Creator performed its final act. It set the wheel of time turning, eel of Ta'is. The one power began to flow, the two halves pushing against each other, and the great axle of the universe began its first rotation. As it turned, it began to pull on the potential of existence, drawing out the lives of souls and weaving them together. Each life was a thread, thin and fragile on its own, but when woven together with countless others, it became part of a vast and intricate tapestry. This tapestry was the pattern of the ages. It was the sum total of all lives, all choices, all events, past, present, and future. It was reality itself, in all of its beautiful and terrifying complexity. And with the wheel turning, the pattern beginning to form, and the Dark One safely imprisoned, the Creator stepped back. This is perhaps the most defining aspect of the Creator in this cosmology, its absolute and deliberate non-intervention. The Creator is not a God who answers prayers, who smites the wicked, or who offers guidance to the faithful. The Creator is often compared to a gardener. A gardener prepares the soil, plants the seeds, ensures there is water and sunlight, and then allows the garden to grow according to its own nature. The gardener may watch from a distance, may feel sorrow for a flower that wilts, or joy for a tree that bears fruit, but does not interfere with the life cycle of every single plant. The beauty of the garden is in its wholeness, in its ability to live and breathe and change on its own. The Creator made the world, but it was up to the people within it to make of it what they would. This concept shapes the entire philosophical landscape of this universe. There are no divine miracles to save the day. There is no ultimate judge to punish evil. There is only the wheel, the pattern, and the choices that people make. The responsibility for the fate of the world rests entirely on the shoulders of those who live in it. This withdrawal is not an act of abandonment or indifference. It is a profound act of trust. It is the Creator's ultimate gift, the gift of consequence. Every choice, no matter how small, sends ripples through the pattern. An act of kindness can strengthen the weave in one small section. An act of cruelty can create a snag, a dark spot in the tapestry. The collective choices of all people over millennia determine the overall design of the age lace. The Creator's silence forces the inhabitants of the world to look to each other, to rely on their own strength, their own courage, and their own wisdom. It makes their victories earned, their sacrifices meaningful, and their failures their own. The people of this world do not generally pray to the Creator for help. They might swear by the Creator's name, or use the phrase, "light be willing," which is an acknowledgement of a higher power and the benevolent forces of the pattern. But the concept of a personal relationship with a listening deity is largely absent. The Creator is a fact of existence, like gravity or the sky, not a participant in daily life. The question of the Creator's nature is a source of subtle philosophical debate within the world. Is the Creator a sentient being who is consciously choosing not to act? Or is the Creator more of a cosmic principle, a first cause that set everything in motion and then ceased to be an active entity? The law does not provide a definitive answer, leaving it to the characters and the reader to ponder. The prevailing view seems to be the former, a conscious being who is watching from an infinite distance. There are extremely rare moments in the story where characters believe the Creator has acted in an infinitesimally small way, a subtle nudge to the pattern that is almost imperceptible. But these instances are so ambiguous that they could easily be interpreted as coincidence or simply the grand, self-correcting nature of the pattern itself. For all intents and purposes, the Creator is silent, a silent architect, a silent gardener, a silent watcher who has built the cosmic clockwork, wound it up, and let it run. This concept of a withdrawn Creator has profound implications for how the people in this universe understand their own existence. It fosters a sense of immense personal and collective responsibility. When a great evil rises, they cannot wait for a divine hand to strike it down. They must find the strength within themselves and within their communities to stand against it. It also creates a world where destiny and free will are in a constant, delicate dance. The wheel of time turns, and the pattern unfolds as it must, suggesting a grand, predetermined design. Yet, at every moment, individuals are making choices that shape the nature of that very design. The Creator's gift was a universe where both are true at the same time. The path of the river is set, but the water within it is free to flow and churn as it will. The creation of the one power, with its two distinct and opposing halves, is another reflection of the Creator's philosophy of balance. Sidin and Sidar are not good and evil. They are simply different, two fundamental forces that are necessary for existence. The world is built on this duality, male and female, light and shadow, order and chaos, creation and destruction. One cannot exist without the other. The Creator did not fashion a universe of pure light and order. It created a universe where balance was the highest principle. The entire structure of reality is designed to seek this equilibrium. When one force grows too strong, the pattern itself will begin to move in ways to strengthen the opposing force, to bring the scales back to center. This is a universe that is fundamentally designed to be self-correcting, a testament to the intricate and thoughtful design of its maker. The imprisonment of the Dark One is the ultimate expression of this philosophy. by sealing away the ultimate source of negation rather than erasing it, the Creator ensured that the struggle would be eternal. Every age would have its challenges, its heroes, and its villains. The threat of the shadow would always be there, a constant reminder of what is at stake. This ensures that humanity can never become complacent. It must always be vigilant, always be striving, always be making the choice to stand for the light. This eternal struggle is not a curse. It is the engine of progress, the fire that forges heroes, and the force that gives life its deepest meaning. The Creator did not design a paradise. It designed an arena, a testing ground, a place where souls could be tempered and refined through adversity. So, when we look at the role of the Creator, we see a being of immense power and even greater restraint. A being who chose to create a universe of consequence, balance, and free will, rather than a universe of puppets. The Creator's silence is not an absence, but a presence. It is the quiet confidence of a master craftsman who trusts in the quality of his creation. It is the highest law of the land, the unspoken constitution of reality that says, "This world is yours. Its fate is in your hands. The tools have been provided. The rules have been set. Now it is up to you to weave a pattern worthy of the name." The Creator is the beginning, the first cause, the unmoved mover who set the great wheel spinning. But once it was in motion, the story was no longer about the maker. It became the story of the made. And that is a far more interesting story indeed. The implications of this silent Creator ripple through every aspect of the societies and cultures that develop within the pattern. Religions, when they form, are often not directed at the Creator itself, but at the pattern, or the light, or other, more abstract principles. People revere the idea of balance and the turning of the wheel. They speak of fate and destiny not as the whims of a capricious god, but as the inexorable weaving of the cosmic loom. This creates a worldview that is both deeply spiritual and intensely practical. There is an acknowledgement of grand, cosmic forces at play, but also a firm understanding that one's own actions are the primary determinant of one's life. You cannot pray your way out of a famine. You must plant crops and manage your resources. You cannot wish away an invading army. You must stand and fight. This philosophy also shapes their understanding of morality. Good and evil are not defined by divine commandments handed down from on high. They are defined by their effect on the pattern. An act is considered good if it strengthens the weave, promotes life and order, and works in harmony with the turning of the wheel. An act is considered evil if it seeks to unravel the tapestry, to sow chaos and discord, or to serve the ultimate goal of the Dark One, which is the complete annihilation of the pattern. This makes morality a very tangible and consequential thing. It's not about pleasing a distant deity. It's about maintaining the very fabric of reality that you and everyone you love depends on for existence. The Creator's initial design, the duality of the one power, also serves as a constant, underlying source of tension and harmony in the world. The division between men who can wield Sidene and women who can wield Sidar creates a fundamental separation in how the most powerful forces in the world are approached. This division has led to cooperation and conflict, to ages of balance and ages of turmoil. It is another example of the Creator building a complex and dynamic system rather than a simple, static one. The interplay between the two halves of the true source is a microcosm of the larger interplay of forces throughout the universe. They are stronger together, but their natures often pull them apart. Finding the path to work in concert is one of the great recurring challenges across the ages. Let us consider again the analogy of the gardener. When a gardener plants a seed, they have a general idea of what it will become. A seed for an oak tree will grow into an oak tree. But the specific shape of that tree, the way its branches twist and turn, the number of leaves it produces, the way it weathers the storms, all of that is determined by its own life, its own struggles, its own interaction with the world around it. The Creator planted the seed of reality, knowing it would grow into the pattern of the ages. But the specific shape of that pattern, the stories of heroism and betrayal, of love and loss that are woven into it, are the result of the countless free choices made by the threads themselves. The Creator did not write the story. It built the stage and let the actors write their own play. The silence of the Creator also leaves a void that other forces can attempt to fill. The Dark One, from his prison outside of time, is all too willing to offer answers, to provide guidance, and to reward his followers with tangible power. He presents himself as an active and interested party in the affairs of humanity, a stark contrast to the distant and silent Creator. This makes the choice between the light and the shadow a very real and tempting one. The light offers responsibility, consequence, and the quiet satisfaction of contributing to the health of the pattern. The shadow offers power, the illusion of freedom from fate, and a master who takes a personal interest in his servants. The Creator's withdrawal is what makes this choice possible and meaningful. It forces people to choose the harder path not out of fear of divine retribution, but out of a genuine belief in its rightness. In the end, the Creator is a concept that is both simple and profoundly complex. Simple in its function, the one who began it all. Complex in its implications, a being who valued free will so highly that it was willing to create a world full of risk, struggle, and pain to ensure that it could exist. The Creator is the ultimate expression of trust in one's own creation. The entire universe is a grand experiment built on a single hypothesis: that given the freedom to choose, life will, on the whole, choose to persevere. It will choose to fight for the light, to mend the tears in the pattern, and to continue the turning of the wheel. The Creator is not a character in the story. It is the author who wrote the first line and then let the story write itself, a silent watcher, a distant architect, and the source of the quiet, unending music to which the entire universe dances. The foundational truth of this reality is that help is not coming from above. Strength must be found from within. And that is a powerful and terrifying and beautiful idea all at once. The Creator's work was finished at the moment of creation. The rest of the work belongs to the threads in the great pattern of the ages. Chapter 2. The Wheel of Time, the Engine of Eternity. The Creator, having designed the universe, stepped back, leaving its creation to function according to the laws that had been put in place. The centerpiece of this grand design, the mechanism that would govern all of existence from that first moment until the last, was the Wheel of Time. It is not a physical object that one could find by traveling to the center of the galaxy. It is a metaphysical construct, a cosmic engine that exists everywhere and nowhere at once. It is the loom upon which the fate of every living thing, from the smallest insect to the most powerful king, is woven. To understand the world, one must first understand the wheel, for it is the single most important and constant force in the universe. It is more fundamental than gravity, more enduring than the stars, and more powerful than any army. It is the heart of reality, and its steady rhythmic turning is the beat to which all of existence pulses. Imagine a water wheel of impossible size, standing in the river of the one power. The two halves of that river, the male current of Sidin and the female current of Sidar, push against its paddles. They are in eternal opposition, one wild and chaotic, the other calm and steady. But their combined force is what causes the great wheel to turn. It turns without ceasing, without speeding up or slowing down. Its motion is the definition of time itself. As it rotates, it dips into the well of souls, pulling forth the threads of individual lives and feeding them into the great loom. With every degree of its turn, it weaves these threads together, creating the intricate and unending tapestry known as the pattern of the ages. The wheel is not a thinking entity. It does not possess a will or a consciousness. It is a machine, a perfect and eternal piece of cosmic clockwork, set in motion by the Creator at the dawn of all things. It does not love, it does not hate, it does not judge. It simply is, and it simply turns. And in that simple, unending action, it shapes all of reality. The structure of the wheel is said to have 7 spokes. Each spoke represents an age. An age is not a specific length of time that can be measured in years, like a century or a millennium. It is an era, a distinct period of history with its own unique characteristics, its own level of technology, its own societal structures, and its own defining legends. As the wheel turns, it passes through each of the 7 ages in order, one after the other. When the 7th age comes to an end, the wheel completes its rotation and the first age begins once more. This cycle is endless. The story of the universe is not a straight line with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It is a circle. The memories of one age fade over time, becoming the legends of the next, which in turn become the myths of the one that follows. Eventually, even the myths are forgotten, lost to the mists of time, only for the age that gave them birth to come around again. There are no ultimate beginnings or endings to the turning of the wheel of time. There are only beginnings and endings to the ages themselves. This cyclical nature defines the very soul of this world. It means that no victory is ever truly permanent, and no defeat is ever truly final. The great struggles are fought again and again, in different forms, with different faces, but the core conflict remains the same. It is a worldview that breeds a sense of profound continuity and a certain melancholy resignation to the grander movements of history. What is, has been before. What will be again. The first age is believed by scholars and philosophers within the story to be our own modern era. It is an age where the legends speak of men flying in metal birds and travelling to the moon, of great cities of glass and steel. These stories are treated as fanciful myths by the people of the Third Age, the time in which the main narrative is set. They find strange metallic relics buried deep in the earth, objects that defy explanation, and they weave tales around them. The stories of Mosk and Merk, 2 giants who fought with lances of fire that could burn the world, are thought to be distorted memories of Moscow, America during a great war. The legend of Len, who flew to the moon in the belly of an eagle of fire, is a faded echo of John Glenn and the space race. The first age is the forgotten past, the mythical foundation upon which all the subsequent ages are built. As the wheel turns, the first age gives way to the second age, which is known in the stories as the Age of Legends. This was a time of unparalleled progress and utopia. Humanity had discovered the One Power and learned to wield it in ways that seem magical to later generations. They built magnificent, beautiful cities that lived in harmony with nature. Disease and hunger were things of the past. People lived for hundreds of years, their lives filled with art, learning, and peace. They travelled instantly from one place to another through gateways, and they used the One Power to create wonders. It was a near-perfect society, a global civilization united in peace and prosperity. But it was in this age of wonders that humanity's arrogance grew too great. In their search for a new, unified source of the One Power that could be wielded by both men and women, a group of scientists drilled a hole into the very fabric of reality. They were not trying to unleash evil. They were trying to achieve a greater good. But through that hole, they accidentally touched the prison of the Dark One. The Dark One's influence began to seep into the world like a slow, creeping poison. It brought greed, jealousy, and ambition into a world that had largely forgotten them. Society began to rot from within. Some people, tempted by the promise of eternal life and ultimate power, willingly gave themselves over to the shadow. This led to the War of Power, a devastating conflict that tore the world apart. At the end of this war, the champion of the light, a man named Luz Therin Telamon, known as the Dragon, led the forces of light to victory and managed to seal the Dark One's prison shut once more. But in his final act, the Dark One struck a counterblow. he tainted the male half of the one power, Saidin, driving every male channeler in the world instantly and violently insane. In their madness, these men, who had been the greatest builders and healers of the Age of Legends, unleashed unimaginable destruction upon the world. They raised mountains where there were none, sank lands beneath the sea, and shattered continents. This event became known as the breaking of the world. It was the cataclysm that ended the glorious Second Age and plunged the world into chaos. From the ashes of the breaking, the Third Age was born. This is an age of recovery, a time of fractured kingdoms and lost knowledge. The world is a shadow of its former self. The great cities of the Age of Legends are ruins, and the wonders they created are now considered magical artifacts. People live in a world that is much more medieval in character, with swords and horses, castles and kings. The knowledge of how to channel the one power has survived, but only among women, who use the untainted female half, Saidar. Male channelers are feared and hunted, for the taint on Saidin still drives them mad, making them a terrifying and destructive force wherever they appear. The Third Age is defined by the legacy of the past. It is an age of prophecy, for the people know that the Dark One is not defeated forever, and that the seals on his prison are weakening. They know that the Wheel of Time will spin out the soul of the dragon once more, reincarnating him into a new body to fight the shadow again, in a final battle that will determine the fate of the age. The entire Third Age is lived in the long shadow of the past and in fearful anticipation of the future. The story of the wheel does not end there. If the forces of light are victorious in the Third Age, the wheel will continue to turn, bringing about the Fourth Age. The nature of this age, and the fifth, sixth, and seventh that follow, is unknown. They are subjects of speculation and philosophy. Perhaps the Fourth Age will be a time of rebuilding and new discovery, a new renaissance born from the ashes of the great conflict. Perhaps one of the later ages will see technology rise again, leading to a new era of science that eventually forgets the one power, cycling back towards the nature of the First Age. Each rotation of the wheel is not an exact copy of the one before. The great events, the broad strokes of history, are repeated. There will always be a Second Age of great power, and it will always be followed by a cataclysmic fall. There will always be a Third Age of struggle against the shadow, but the details are always different. The people are new, their choices are their own, and so the tapestry they weave is unique to their cycle. The lace of ages, the complete pattern woven during one full rotation, is similar in its overall design to the one that came before, but its specific threads and colors are always new. This brings us to the most personal and profound function of the Wheel of Time, the concept of rebirth. The wheel does not just govern the grand sweep of history, it governs the life of every single individual soul. When a person dies, their soul is not extinguished. It does not go to a heaven or a hell. Instead, it is drawn back to the wheel. The life that was just lived becomes a thread, which is then woven into the pattern of the ages, becoming a permanent part of the story of that time. The soul itself then rests, waiting to be spun out again by the wheel into a new life, in a new body, in a different time. This is the process of reincarnation, and it applies to everyone and everything. A farmer in one life might be a queen in the next. A warrior might be reborn as a scholar. There is no memory of past lives. Each life is a fresh start, a clean slate. The soul is the same, but the personality, the memories, and the experiences are entirely new. This process is the core of the universe's mechanics. The world is not populated by an infinite number of new souls. It is populated by a vast but finite number of souls that are used over and over again. This endless recycling of life reinforces the cyclical nature of existence. The same souls are present for the rise and fall of ages, playing different parts in the same grand story, repeated for eternity. This has several deep implications. It suggests that the people you meet, are not strangers in the truest sense. You may have known their souls in countless past lives, as family, as friends, as enemies. Certain souls are sometimes drawn to each other across lifetimes, their threads destined to be woven together time and time again. A great love might be reborn in every age, the two souls finding each other no matter the circumstances. Likewise, a great rivalry might echo through eternity, two souls destined to oppose each other again and again. These connections are not remembered consciously, but are felt as a deep, inexplicable bond or an instant, unexplainable animosity. It is the old pattern of the soul's thread asserting itself in the new weave. While most souls are spun out randomly, as the pattern requires, some are special. The most important of these is the soul of the dragon. This is not a title or a rank. It is a specific, individual soul that the wheel has bound to itself. This soul is the pattern's primary defense mechanism, its champion for the light. When the threat of the Dark One grows too great and the world is on the brink of being consumed by shadow, the wheel spins out the soul of the dragon into the world. This soul is always born as a man, and he is always an incredibly powerful channeler of the One Power. His rebirth is a sign that the final battle, Tarman Gaiden, is near. Prophecies foretelling his arrival are known throughout the lands, causing both hope and fear. For his coming signals both the world's potential salvation and a time of immense upheaval and destruction. He is the hero the world needs, but his power is so immense and the forces that gather around him are so great that his very presence causes chaos and breaks nations. In the Age of Legends, this soul was born as Luz, Therin Telamon. In the Third Age, he is reborn as Rand al'Thor. They are the same soul, but they are different men. Rand has no memory of Luz Therin's life, though the taint on Sidon eventually causes the memories of his past life to bleed through, driving him to the brink of madness. The burden of this soul is immense. He is destined to face the Dark One, but he is not guaranteed to win. The choices he makes are still his own. The wheel provides the champion, but the champion must still fight the battle. The dragon is the ultimate example of the interplay between destiny and free will. His fate is to be born and to face the shadow, but the outcome of that confrontation rests on his own character, his own strength, and the choices he makes along the way. It is possible that in one turning of the wheel, the dragon could fail. What would happen then is the subject of dread and speculation. Perhaps the Dark One would break free and unmake the pattern, ending the cycle forever. Or perhaps the wheel would be forced to continue turning through a dark and blighted cycle, waiting for the soul to be reborn once more for another chance. Other heroes are also believed to be bound to the wheel, spun out when they are needed. These are the souls of great heroes, leaders, and thinkers who rise to the occasion in times of crisis. They are not as central to the pattern's design as the dragon, but they are important supporting threads, crucial to the victory of the light. They are often drawn to the dragon, their destinies intertwined with his, their threads woven closely around his in the pattern. Like the dragon, they do not remember their past lives, but they often possess an innate skill or a deep-seated sense of duty that hints at their heroic nature. This belief reinforces the idea that heroism is an eternal quality, a part of the world's very fabric, and that in its darkest hours, the wheel will always provide the champions that are needed to defend it. The very phrase that is common in the world, "the wheel weaves as the wheel wills," encapsulates the general understanding of this cosmic force. It is not an expression of faith in a benevolent God, but an acknowledgement of the power of destiny. It signifies that there are forces at play that are far larger than any individual. The grand direction of the pattern is set. An age of legends will always rise, and it will always fall. The dragon will always be reborn to fight the shadow. These are fixed points in the great tapestry. The will of the wheel is not a conscious decision, but the inevitable unfolding of the pattern according to its own internal logic and structure. It is like saying gravity pulls as gravity wills. It is a statement of fundamental law. Individuals have free will to make their own choices, to weave their own small section of the pattern as they see fit. But they cannot change the overall design of the age lace. A single thread can change its color or its texture, but it cannot change the fact that it is part of a larger tapestry. This concept can be both comforting and terrifying. It is comforting in that it suggests there is a grand order to the universe, that events are not merely random and chaotic. There is a purpose, a design, even if it is too vast to be fully understood. It is terrifying in that it suggests a lack of ultimate control. No matter how hard one struggles, the great currents of fate will pull them in a certain direction. The best one can do is to navigate those currents with courage and honor. The phrase is often used as a way of expressing acceptance of a difficult fate or of an event that is beyond anyone's control. It is a recognition that one is but a single thread, and the entire tapestry is woven by a force of unimaginable scale and power. The wheel of time, then, is the engine of reality, the arbiter of fate, and the promise of eternity. It is the creator's masterpiece of self-sustaining design. Powered by the eternal conflict and harmony of the two halves of the one power, it turns without end. It dictates the rise and fall of civilizations through its 7 ages, ensuring that the story of the world is one of endless cycles rather than linear progression. It gathers the souls of the dead and reweaves them into new lives, granting a form of immortality to all things and ensuring that the great tapestry is always vibrant and new. It has its own self-correcting mechanisms, binding the souls of heroes like the dragon to its purpose, spinning them out in times of need to defend the pattern from those who would unravel it. It is a force of nature, impersonal, impartial, and absolute. It is the steady, unending rhythm that lies beneath all of the chaos and struggle of life. It is the loom, and all of existence is its art. Understanding the wheel is to understand that every life, no matter how humble, has a place in the grand design, and that every end is just the prelude to a new beginning. The wheel of time turns, and ages come and pass, and the threads of our lives are but a small, beautiful part of its eternal story. Chapter 3. The Pattern of the Ages, the woven tapestry of reality. We have spoken of the Creator, the silent architect who designed the universe and then stepped away. We have explored the great wheel of time, the cosmic engine that turns forever, powered by the one power, governing the cycles of history and the rebirth of souls. Now we come to the final and most immediate of these great concepts. We come to the product of their combined work. If the Creator is the artist, and the wheel is the loom, then the pattern of the ages is the magnificent, infinitely complex tapestry that is woven upon it. It is not a metaphor for reality, it is reality itself. Everything that is, everything that was, and everything that will be is a part of the pattern. It is the sum total of all lives, all choices, and all consequences, from the birth of a star to the fall of a single leaf. To live is to be a thread in this great pattern, and to understand it is to understand the very nature of existence in this world. The pattern is not a flat, two-dimensional piece of cloth. It is a structure of unimaginable complexity, a multi-dimensional weave where past, present, and future all exist simultaneously from a certain point of view. Imagine a fabric so vast that you could never see its edges, and so detailed that every single point of light and shadow is composed of millions of smaller threads. Each thread is a life, and the way they cross and intertwine with each other creates the events, the societies, and the very ground beneath your feet. The color of a thread might represent a person's nature. Its thickness might represent their influence on the world, its path, the journey of their life. When threads are woven together tightly, they form a family, a village, or a nation. When they cross and then part, they represent a chance meeting, a brief friendship, or a passing conflict. The entire story of the world is written in this language of thread and weave, a story that is constantly being written, revised, and expanded with every turn of the wheel. Every single life is a thread. A simple farmer, living and dying in the same small village, might be a simple strand of brown or green wool, a sturdy and essential part of the background texture of the age. A great queen, whose decisions affect millions, might be a shining thread of gold or silver, a bright and dominant line that draws the eye and influences the shape of the weave around it for a great distance. A soldier's life might be a thread of strong, grey steel, woven tightly with those of his comrades in the pattern of a regiment. A scholar's life might be a thin, intricate thread of many colours, connecting disparate parts of the pattern through knowledge and discovery. No thread is unimportant. Even the shortest, most humble thread contributes to the overall strength and beauty of the whole. A tapestry with only golden threads would be monotonous and weak. It is the interplay of all the different colours and textures that gives the pattern its depth and richness. The pattern needs its farmers as much as it needs its kings, its scholars as much as its soldiers. This is where the profound relationship between destiny and free will comes into its sharpest focus. The wheel of time determines the overall design of the age. It dictates that there will be a great war, or that a city will fall, or that a hero will rise. This is the large-scale direction of the weave, the grand shape that the pattern must take in that particular age. This is destiny. However, each individual thread within that grand design has the freedom to make its own choices. A person can choose to be kind or cruel, brave or cowardly, generous or selfish. These choices change the nature of their own thread. An act of great kindness might cause a drab thread to shine with a soft, warm light. An act of betrayal might turn a bright thread dark and ugly, creating a snag in the weave. This is free will. You cannot choose the general direction your life will take. You cannot stop the great events of your age from happening, but you have absolute control over the quality and character of your own personal thread. Consider a great battle, an event decreed by the turning of the wheel. The pattern requires that this battle happen. The threads of two nations are set on a collision course. That much is fated. But within that battle, every single soldier has choices. One soldier might choose to flee in terror. His thread pulls away from the main weave of the battle, perhaps creating a small hole, a moment of weakness in his army's line. Another soldier might choose to stand his ground, to fight with courage. His thread holds firm, strengthening the weave around him. Another might choose to sacrifice himself to save his friends. His thread ends abruptly, but in doing so, it ties a strong and noble knot, anchoring the threads of those he saved and allowing them to continue on. The outcome of the battle is not a foregone conclusion. It depends on the sum total of all these individual choices. If enough soldiers choose courage, the battle is won. If enough choose fear, it is lost. Destiny sets the stage, but free will performs the play. The pattern is not static. It is a living, breathing thing, constantly in motion. The choices people make send ripples through the weave. A single decision can alter the paths of hundreds of other threads. If a merchant decides to take a different road to a city, he might avoid a group of bandits. His thread continues on, bright and whole. He arrives at the city and makes a trade that saves a small business from ruin. The threads of that business owner and his family are strengthened. Their children grow up healthy and go on to have children of their own, adding new threads to the pattern. But what of the bandits? Their threads, which were meant to intersect with the merchants, now continue on a different path. Perhaps they grow desperate and attack a different traveller, a young scholar carrying important news. The scholar's thread is cut short. The news is never delivered, and a kingdom, unaware of a coming threat, falls into chaos. All of this, a cascade of consequences, from a single, simple choice made by one man. This is the immense responsibility that comes with the gift of free will. Every choice matters. Every life has an impact. The pattern is also the source of what people in this world understand as luck or chance. These are not random forces. They are the expressions of the pattern's own internal logic. Sometimes, the pattern requires two people to meet. Their threads are destined to intertwine. So, a series of coincidences will occur to make that meeting happen. A man's horse will lose a shoe, forcing him to stop at the one blacksmith in the country where his future wife happens to be visiting her cousin. A woman will miss her boat, forcing her to take the next one, where she will sit next to a man who will become her greatest business partner. From the perspective of the people involved, it is just good luck. From the perspective of the pattern, it is a necessary and deliberate course correction, ensuring the weave unfolds as it must. The same is true for bad luck. A roof tile falling and injuring a man might not be random. It might be the pattern's way of preventing him from being on a ship that is fated to sink, thus preserving his thread for a more important purpose later on. The very fabric of the pattern seeks stability and balance. It is, in a way, like a living organism with its own immune system. When something happens that threatens the integrity of the weave, the pattern works to correct it. If a great leader is assassinated, creating a power vacuum and a hole in the tapestry, the threads around that hole will begin to be pulled in new and unexpected ways to compensate. Other, lesser threads will be pushed into prominence. A previously unknown captain might be thrust into a position of command and reveal a genius for leadership. A quiet counselor might find the courage to speak out and unite a fractured court. The pattern will work to mend the damage, to weave new connections and strengthen the area until the hole is closed. This self-correcting nature is one of its most fundamental properties. The wheel weaves as the wheel wills, and the pattern will always strive to fulfill the design laid out for it by the turning of the wheel. However, there are times when the normal, subtle adjustments of the pattern are not enough. There are moments in the cycle of an age when the stakes are so high, when the forces of chaos and darkness are so strong, that the very existence of the pattern is at risk. The Dark One, from his prison, constantly works to unravel the tapestry, to pull the threads apart and return everything to nothing. When his influence grows strong, and the world is on the brink of a dark and terrible fate, the wheel and the pattern must resort to a more direct and powerful method of self-correction. They create what is known as a taveran. A taveran is not a person with a special power. It is a person who has been turned into a tool of the pattern. For reasons that are not understood, the wheel selects a particular soul, a particular thread, and makes it a focal point for the weaving of reality. A taveran is like a vortex in the great river of time, a whirlpool that draws other threads towards it. They do not bend the pattern to their will. The pattern bends itself around them to serve a greater purpose. To be near a taveran is to have your life swept up in the grand currents of destiny. Chance and probability warp in their presence. The impossible becomes likely, and the certain becomes uncertain. They are the living, breathing agents of fate, and their lives are not their own. The effect of a taveran can be subtle or dramatic. A weak taveran might only affect their own small town. In their presence, a long-running family feud might suddenly be resolved through a series of unlikely encounters and misunderstandings. A harvest that was doomed by drought might be saved by a series of freak, localized rainstorms. The taveran doesn't cause these things to happen through any conscious act. Their very presence creates a nexus where the pattern can exert its influence more forcefully, nudging reality back onto its proper course. The people in the town would just think they've had a run of incredible good fortune. They would not know that they have been living in the quiet eye of a storm of destiny. The main characters of the central story are not weak taveran. They are three of the most powerful taveran to have been born in 1,000 years. When they are near, the laws of chance are not just nudged, they are completely rewritten. A tossed coin might land on its edge 10 times in a row. A master archer might miss a target the size of a house, while a boy who has never held a bow might hit a bird in flight from 100 paces. An entire village might decide to follow them on a desperate quest for no reason they can articulate, simply because it feels like the right and necessary thing to do. The threads of thousands of lives are pulled into their orbit. Kings and queens find their plans upended by the arrival of these unknown wanderers. Entire nations can be thrown into chaos or united behind a new cause simply because a tavern walked through their capital city. To be a tavern is an immense burden. It means that you can never have a normal life. Your desires and plans are secondary to the needs of the pattern. If you want to go east, but the pattern needs you to go west, a series of impossible events will conspire to turn you around. Your bridge will collapse, your horse will go lame, and a mysterious stranger will appear with a vital message that sends you in the opposite direction. You are a piece on the great game board of the ages, and you are moved by a hand you cannot see. It can be a lonely and terrifying existence. The people around you are also caught in your wake. Your friends and family have their own lives and dreams, but their threads are now so tightly woven with yours that they are pulled along on your fated path, whether they want to be or not. A tavern brings great change, but great change is often violent and painful. They are the storm that is necessary to clear the air. But many people are broken by the wind and the rain. The choices of a tavern are still their own, but the consequences of those choices are magnified 1,000 times over. A simple act of kindness from a tavern might inspire a person who goes on to become a great leader. A moment of anger or a harsh word might turn a potential ally into a bitter enemy who will cause immense trouble down the line. The ripples they send through the pattern are not small. They are tidal waves. This is why the dragon, who is always the most powerful tavern of his age, bears such a heavy weight. His every action shapes the fate of the world. He is the central thread around which the entire pattern of the third age is being woven. If his thread is strong and bright, the pattern will be one of victory and hope. If his thread darkens, if he gives in to despair or madness, the entire tapestry could be one of darkness and ruin. The pattern, through its use of tavern, demonstrates its ultimate purpose, to endure. It is a system designed to survive, to resist the forces of chaos and annihilation. The Dark One seeks to unmake reality, and the pattern uses its own internal laws to fight back. It is a silent cosmic war fought not with armies, but with probability, chance, and the lives of a few chosen individuals who are forced to carry the weight of destiny on their shoulders. They are the pattern's champions, its antibodies, its tools for ensuring that the story continues, that the wheel keeps turning, and that the tapestry is not unraveled before its time. Finally, the completed work of one full cycle of the wheel, the tapestry that contains all 7 ages, from the forgotten first age to the mysterious 7th, is known as the Lace of Ages. It is the finished masterpiece, the complete story of a single rotation of time. Once the 7th age ends and the first age begins again, a new lace of ages is started. As we have said, the design of this new lace will be similar to the last. The great events will echo, but because every individual thread within it is free to make its own choices, the details will be different. The colors will be slightly shifted. The texture will be unique. It will be the same story, but told in a new and different voice. This is the ultimate beauty of the Creator's design. It is a system that allows for both eternal repetition and infinite variety. It is a universe where the grand cosmic opera has a set score, but the musicians are free to improvise their individual parts, creating a new and unique performance every single time. So, the pattern of the ages is the world. It is the stage and the play all at once. It is the collected story of every life woven together into a single, coherent, and breathtakingly complex whole. It is governed by its own laws, seeking balance and fighting to preserve its own existence. It uses destiny as its guide, but it is built from the threads of free will. It is strong and resilient, yet it is vulnerable to the choices of the individuals who make it up. To be alive is to be a part of this grand cosmic art, to contribute your own unique color and texture to the one great story that is always being told. It is a reminder that no life is lived in isolation, that every choice has a consequence, and that everyone is a part of something far older, far larger, and far more wonderful than they can ever fully comprehend. The pattern is the legacy of the Creator, the work of the wheel, and the home of every soul that has ever been or ever will be.